The morning sun cast a golden shimmer over the waters of the Nile, painting the city of Alexandria in hues of fire and sand. On the palace balcony, Cleopatra VII, daughter of Pharaoh Ptolemy XII, stood motionless. She was only 17, but she carried herself with the gravity of a queen. The bustling city, the whirring of the market stalls, the great library, all of it lay beneath her, like a chessboard. She was born into a crumbling dynasty, a Greek family ruling an Egyptian kingdom. Her father had filled the treasury with Roman debt before vanishing into death, leaving the throne to Cleopatra and her 10-year-old brother, Ptolemy XIII, a child she was forced to marry by custom, though power was never meant to be shared. Her mind was sharper than the jeweled dagger at her waist. She spoke 9 languages. She could quote Aristotle and Homer, but also read the hearts of men. She had no illusions about the court. Alliances built on flattery, betrayals offered with smiles, power traded behind veils. The moment her father was buried, the regents of Ptolemy's court turned against her. One by one, her allies disappeared, exiled or assassinated. Poisoned wine, venomous scrolls, whispers in the halls, all of it aimed at breaking her hold. In the end, Cleopatra was driven from the palace, exiled to the edge of Egypt, with only a handful of loyal supporters. But exile was not defeat. She spent her months in the desert watching, learning. Egypt was bleeding. Rome was circling like a vulture. And in Rome's internal storm, civil war between Caesar and Pompey, she saw her opportunity. When Caesar arrived in Alexandria in pursuit of Pompey in 48 BCE, Cleopatra moved. Not with an army, but with silk and strategy. Smuggled into the palace, rolled inside a carpet, she was unfurled at Caesar's feet like a gift from the gods. He was older than she expected, lined with war, sharp with intellect, but not invulnerable. He had just learned that Pompey, the man he sought, had been murdered on Egyptian shores. Cleopatra's brother had offered Caesar the severed head as a token of loyalty. Caesar was furious, not honored but insulted. She offered him something else, legitimacy. "If you would have Egypt," she said to him in private, "you must have it through me." By morning, she had his support. By week's end, Caesar's forces fought beside hers. The Alexandrian war tore through the city streets. Her brother's regents were driven back, and Ptolemy XIII was found drowned in the Nile, his body twisted in his golden armor. When the dust settled, Cleopatra sat alone on the throne of Egypt, pharaoh, not in name alone, but in full. And at her side, for a time, stood the most powerful man in the world.
Queen and Commander.
Caesar remained in Alexandria for months after the war, officially to settle affairs, unofficially for Cleopatra. Together they sailed the Nile, examining its ancient temples and sacred tombs. She showed him Isis's shrines and the pyramids of Giza. He marveled at Egypt's wealth, its mystery. Cleopatra, in turn, learned the subtleties of Roman law and the real power behind its Senate. Their affair was not mere passion, it was mutual fascination, 2 minds, 2 worlds. From their union came a child, Ptolemy XV Caesar, known as Caesarion, Little Caesar. Cleopatra believed him to be destined to inherit both empires, the East through her blood, the West through his father's. In 46 BCE, Cleopatra traveled to Rome with Caesarion. Her arrival caused a stir. Golden barge, silken robes, an infant who may well have been Rome's next prince. The Senate watched her with suspicion. The Roman matrons watched her with fury. She did not shrink. She dined with Caesar, advised him on Eastern campaigns, lived openly in one of his villas. There was talk that Caesar would make her his queen, would name Caesarion his heir. Then, on the Ides of March 44 BCE, Julius Caesar was stabbed to death beneath the shadow of Pompey's statue. The Senate floor ran red. Rome fell into chaos. Cleopatra knew Rome too well to stay. In darkness, she boarded a ship bound for Alexandria, her heart heavy but her eyes already fixed forward. She would not weep in public. She would not plead with Caesar's murderers. She returned to Egypt, where she ruled alone once more. For a time, peace held. Caesarion grew. The harvests were good, but the world was shifting again. Rome was fracturing. Two men now clawed for its throne: Octavian, Caesar's adopted son, and Mark Antony, his most loyal general. In 41 BCE, Antony summoned Cleopatra to the city of Tarsus. She did not come quietly. Draped in purple, crowned in gold, she sailed up the Cydnus River aboard a ship carved in silver and cedar, sails billowing like a goddess's wings. Perfumes filled the air, music played. She came as Isis incarnate, and Antony, famously drawn to spectacle, fell. Their bond was swift and all-consuming. He followed her to Egypt, where they ruled together in splendor. In public they held feasts that lasted for days. In private they were bound by desire and ambition alike. She bore him twins, then another son. He gave her Cyprus, Phoenicia, and territories once controlled by Rome. Together they declared Caesarion the true heir of Caesar. The East was theirs. But in Rome, Octavian seized. He used their love, their children, their declarations, to paint them as traitors, foreigners, threats to Roman purity. He told the Senate that Cleopatra had bewitched Antony, that he no longer served Rome but Egypt.
The last act.
The final act began at Actium, a narrow gulf on the western coast of Greece. In 31 BCE, Cleopatra and Antony's combined fleet met Octavian's navy. The winds were wrong. The command fractured. Cleopatra, seeing the battle turning, fled with her ships. Antony, in despair, followed her, abandoning his fleet. It was the end. One by one, Antony's legions surrendered. His allies turned. Octavian pressed south toward Egypt. In Alexandria, Cleopatra prepared for siege. She moved her treasures into tombs. She built a mausoleum for herself and filled it with gold, scrolls, and statues. She tried once more to negotiate, sent envoys to Octavian, even offered him her crown if Caesarion would rule. Octavian offered her survival, but only if she gave up Antony. She refused. Antony, broken by defeat, took his sword and fell upon it. The blade pierced him, but did not kill him instantly. Bleeding, he was carried to Cleopatra's tomb, where he died in her arms. Cleopatra, now truly alone, knew what came next. Octavian entered Alexandria not as a conqueror, but as a collector of spoils. He came to the tomb and spoke with her, promised mercy. But she had studied Roman mercy. Before Octavian could take her to Rome in chains, she arranged her final act. Dressed in royal garb, she entered her mausoleum. Around her were the symbols of her power: her father's crown, her mother's ring, the papyrus scrolls of her lineage. At her feet were jars of venom and legend. The asp, sacred serpent of the Nile, struck quick. Death came not as punishment, but as liberation. When Octavian found her, she was already still. Two of her handmaidens lay dead beside her. He ordered her body buried with Antony, in a tomb that now lies hidden somewhere beneath the sands of Alexandria. Caesarion, her son, was captured and executed soon after. Egypt, for the first time in 3,000 years, was no longer ruled by a pharaoh. It became a Roman province, a jewel in the empire's crown. But Cleopatra did not vanish. She lived on in stories, in plays, in paintings. To some, she was a seductress, to others, a genius. But above all, she remained what she had always been, a queen.
Like, subscribe, and comment on which conqueror you want me to do next.